Okay, now we're going to demonstrate how to properly perform an air brake test. As always, we're going to start with our seatbelt on. Start with the safe start. Our ABS light is on. Our ABS light is off. Our ABS system is functioning properly. The first test we are going to begin with is our air gauge and governor cutoff test. Our air gauges and governors should cut off between 120 and 140. Start the chuck and air up the system. Gas to help build the pressure. My air gauges are rising. My air gauge is cut out at 120 psi. This is a good test. The next test we're going to be doing is our air leakage rate test. We can lose no more than 4 psi in 1 minute in a Class A vehicle or 3 psi in 1 minute in a Class B. So we're going to put the truck in gear. Shut the truck off. Turn our key right back on. Going to release our brakes. Let our gauges settle for a minute. Apply our foot on the service brake. Let them settle. Okay. Now that my gauges are settled, we're going to begin our 1 minute timer now. Okay, our 1 minute is up. I have not lost more than 4 psi in 1 minute. This is a good test. The next test we're going to do is our air warning devices test. Our air warning devices should come on no less than 55 psi. Our air warning devices came on at 70 psi, so this is a good test. The next test we're going to do is our parking and emergency brake test. Our parking and emergency brakes should spring out at the same time between 20 and 45 psi. Continue to feather down the brake until both of them pop. Our parking and emergency brakes popped at 30 psi, so this is a good test. Next test we're going to be doing is we're going to be testing our parking, trailer, and service brake test. In order to do that, we're going to need to start the truck back up to get a fully charged system. Okay, now that we have a fully charged system, we're going to start by testing our parking brake first. So we'll put the truck in here. Release our trailer brake. Pull against our parking brake slightly until we fill the tub. Okay, our parking brake held. This is a good test. Next test we're going to do is we're going to test our trailer brake. So we'll pull the trailer brake out, release the parking brake, pull against it until we fill the side tub. Trailer brake held. This is a good test. Last test we're going to do is we're going to be testing the service brakes. Release both parking and trailer. Let the clutch out roll forward just a little bit. Service brake held. Instructed not pull it to the left or to the right. This is a good test. That completes your air brake test.
All right, when we start our pre-trips, we're going to work from the top to the bottom, left to right, and front to back. My clearance light lenses are the proper color of amber. They're clean, not damaged or missing. My headlight and blinker lenses are the proper color of clear. They're clean, not damaged or missing. My truck is sitting level. It's not leaning to the left or right, front or back, which would indicate a suspension problem. I'm going to open my hood. I can see through the coolant reservoir that it's filled to the appropriate level between fill and add. My radiator hoses are not cracked, worn, or leaking, and they're properly connected at both ends. I'm going to move to the driver's side. I can see through my power steering reservoir that it's filled to the proper level between the add and the fill line. This is where I check my engine oil to make sure that it's at the appropriate level between the add and fill line. I'm visually inspecting my hoses and listening to make sure they're not worn, frayed, or leaking, and that includes my air lines. I'm looking at the side of my motor and transmission and underneath for dripping fluid. I'm also looking for puddles of fluid on the ground, which would indicate a critical fluid leak. My steering box hoses are not worn, cracked, frayed, or leaking. The connections are not cracked or worn, and they're secured. My steering gearbox is securely mounted. It's not missing any nuts or bolts, and it is not leaking. Moving to my steering linkage. All the connecting links, arms, and rods are not damaged or broken. There are no loose or worn joints or sockets. There are no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter pins. Moving to my suspension. My leaf spring mount is properly secured, not missing any nuts or bolts or parts. My leaf springs are not damaged, broken, or missing, and they are not shifted. My shock is securely mounted, is not damaged or leaking. Moving on to my brakes and tires. My brake airline is not worn, cracked, or frayed. The connections are not worn or leaking and properly secured. I'm looking for oil or grease or other contaminants around my brake shoes and drums, which would affect my braking ability. My inner and outer rim is not bent or damaged. There are no illegal welds or rust to indicate a loose rim on a wedged wheel. My inner and outer tire walls, there's no bumps, blisters, or abrasion. There is no damage to the tire to show plies on the sidewalls or the tread. The tread is wearing evenly, no less than 4/30 seconds of tread on the front, 2/30 seconds everywhere else. My dual tires are the same diameter. My valve stem is accessible. It's not broken, damaged, or leaking. The valve cap is in place. This is where I air my tires, check my tire pressure with an air gauge at 110 psi. All of my lug nuts are present. None are missing or damaged. I'm looking for rust trails or shiny threads, which would indicate a loose lug nut or broken stud. I'm looking at the stud holes to make sure that they're not elongated, and there are no missing nuts or bolts. Moving on to the middle of the truck. My mirror and mirror brackets are not bent, damaged, or broken, and they're properly secured. My marker lights, blinker, and reflector lenses are the correct color of amber. They're clean, not damaged or missing. That's on the side of the truck and the trailer. Moving to my battery box. My battery box cover is secured. My batteries are not visible. They're inside the box, they are secured. The connections are tight and there's no signs of excessive corrosion. All the battery cables are secured, not worn or frayed. Moving on to my fuel tank. My fuel tank is securely mounted. There are no leaks from the fuel tank or the fuel lines going to and from the tank. My fuel cap is secured and not leaking. Moving on to my frame. My frame and cross members are not bent, damaged, or broken. There are no broken welds or illegally drilled holes. My reflective tape is present and properly affixed all the way around the trailer and on the back of the trailer. There is my fifth wheel skid plate is properly positioned so that the rear of the frame and the landing gear do not come in contact while turning. My landing gear, my crank handle is properly secured. My landing gear is fully raised. The supports and landing pad are not damaged or broken. Moving on to the rear, towards the rear of the trailer, my cargo floor area. I'm looking for holes, damaged or missing boards. This trailer has a few missing boards. It does not affect the usability. Moving to the back of the trailer, my reflector, marker light, tail, blinker, and brake light lenses are the proper color of red. They are clean, not damaged or missing. My reflective tape is properly affixed to the rear of the trailer. Okay, once you finish your exterior pre-trip, we're going to do an inspection of the coupling system. It's a separate inspection in and of itself. So when you finish the back of the trailer, we're going to come back up to the tractor. We're going to start on the tractor side. Today we're going to be doing it with our truck that has a sliding fifth wheel. Your truck may not have a sliding fifth wheel on it, so there's only going to be one small difference in it. Well, let's get started. My electrical line is not damaged, spliced, worn, taped, crimped, tangled, or pinched. It is properly seated and sealed at both ends. It is not touching any truck parts or dragging on the ground. My air lines are not cut, damaged, worn, frayed, taped, crimped, pinched, tangled, or spliced. My connections are all seated and sealed correctly on both sides. My air lines are not touching any truck parts or dragging on the ground. My air connectors are locked, not damaged or worn, not leaking. My air connector seals are not damaged, worn, or leaking. My trailer apron is not bent, damaged. There's no excessive wear. It's sitting flat on my fifth wheel skid plate. There is no gap and it's properly greased. My fifth wheel skid plate is not cracked, damaged, or it has excessive wear. It's sitting flat and properly greased. It is connected to the truck with the platform. My release arm is engaged with safety latches. This is a sliding fifth wheel. My locking pins are not worn, damaged, or broken. There are no missing parts and they're fully engaged. If you have a truck that does not have the sliding fifth wheel, you won't talk about your locking pins. We're going to move to the back and talk about our locking jaws. My locking jaws are not damaged or worn. They are secured around the kingpin. My kingpin is not damaged, loose, or worn. Once you finish with your kingpin, that completes your coupling system. Now remember, on the exterior pre-trip, the one thing that we're adding is that your fifth wheel plate is properly positioned so the back of your frame does not hit your landing gear while turning. If you forgot that during the exterior pre-trip, you can add it in here. As always, any questions, talk to your trainer. We'll get you dialed in.
Hey guys, it's Josh, President and CEO here at SP CDL. On the day of your test, as you and the examiner are walking out to the truck, you're going to ask the examiner to help you perform a light check. The lights you're going to be checking, you're going to check your clearance lights, your headlights, your high beams, your blinkers, as well as your hazards. On the rear of the truck, the only difference from the lights that you're going to be testing, instead of the high beams and headlights, you're going to be testing your brake lights and your tail lights. In order to perform that test, you're going to get in the truck. As always, 3 points of contact facing the cab. You'll get in, turn the key on, roll the window down and tell the examiner exactly what lights you are testing. As always, make sure your seatbelt is on every time you are in the cab. So if you're ready, let's get started. All right, now as you guys get in the cab with the examiner may ask you to start with the in-cab. Just remember that air brake test is always the very first thing once you get inside the vehicle. So first thing we're going to do, as always, put on our seatbelt. We're going to begin with a safe start. Make sure our truck is in neutral. Make sure the brakes are applied. Key on. My ABS light is on. My ABS light is off. My ABS system is functioning properly. The first test we're going to do is we're going to do the air gauge and governor cutout check. Our air gauge and governor cutout check should cut out between 120 and 140. Push the clutch in and we'll start the vehicle. Give it a little bit of throttle to help speed up the process. Our gauges are rising. Governor cut out at 120 psi. This is a good test. Next test we're going to perform is our air leakage rate test. We should lose no more than 4 psi in 1 minute in a combination vehicle and 3 psi in 1 minute in a Class B vehicle. To begin that, we're going to put our truck into first gear. We're going to turn the truck off. keeping our hand on the key, turn the key right back on so our gauges come back. I'm going to release both of the brakes. Let our gauges settle just a bit. And we're going to apply our brake. We're going to apply our service brake all the way down to the ground. Let our needle stabilize. Our gauges have settled. I'm now going to begin my 1 minute timer. My 1 minute is up. I have not lost more than 4 pounds of pressure. This is a good test. Our next test is going to be our air warning devices test. Our air warning devices should come on no less than 55 PSI. Our air warning devices came on at 70 PSI. This is a good test. The last test we're going to be doing is our parking and emergency brake test. We're going to continue feathering the brakes down, and they should pop out at the same time between 20 and 45 PSI. Our parking and emergency brakes popped out at 30 PSI. This is a good test. The next test we're going to be doing is going to be our parking, trailer, and service brake test. In order to do that, we're going to restart the vehicle and start with a fully charged system. Now that we have a fully charged system, we're going to test our parking brake first. We'll put the truck into gear. Release our trailer brake. Let the clutch out slowly till we feel a slight tug. Parking brake held. This is a good test. Now we're going to test our trailer brakes. We'll apply our trailer brake, release our parking brake, and pull against it. Trailer brake held. This is a good test. Now we're going to test our service brake. So we'll release both our parking and our trailer brake. Hands behind the wheel. So we'll let the clutch out go forward just slightly. Service brake held. The truck did not pull to the left or to the right. This is a good test. That completes our air brake test. Now we're going to move on to the rest of the end cap. My mirrors are clean and properly adjusted for me. My windshield is clean, no damage or obstructions. My wiper arms and blades are clean, they are not damaged, operate smoothly. My washers function correctly. My left blinker functions properly. My right blinker functions properly. My high beams function properly. My four-way hazards function properly. My heater and defroster function properly. In this bag I have extra fuses. In this box is my 3 reflective emergency triangles, properly secured, not broken or damaged. My seatbelt is not cut or frayed, functions properly, and is properly secured at both ends with the correct hardware. My fire extinguisher is fully charged and securely mounted to the floor with the safety pin in place. My horn functions correctly. That completes my end cap.